You're listening to the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, where we talk about hunting, politics, sports, and everything in between. Now, here's your host, Steve West.
Everybody, welcome to another Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. I'm joined here at the table with my cohort and companion in the office, Travis Price from Steve's Outdoor Adventures. And on the line today, we've got a special guest, Tony Smotherman, the traveling hunter. He's a world-renowned hunter, world-renowned muzzleloader hunter, to say the least. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Tony, how you doing?
Well, first of all, I want to say I am a guest. I'm not sure how special of a guest I am. But I do appreciate the opportunity to be here and the kind words, man. It's great to share an opportunity on this podcast with both of you guys, obviously more well-renowned hunters than what I will ever probably be. So I do appreciate the opportunity to be here.
You just got to uncover the other 7 or 8 pages of your resume, Tony. It's you've got your share of field time in your lifetime, and hopefully many more years, of course, of that. And we try to use this podcast as a great way to not only entertain our listeners and viewers, but also give them a lot of information. And you're an expert in a lot of areas. I even out when we did that antelope hunt together in New Mexico, I learned a lot about muzzleloaders and you've immersed yourself in the industry so well that there'll be things that I learned today. There's no doubt about it. Hey, just something we want to lead off the show with. We're trying to keep our viewers and listeners up to date on kind of what's happening with the Canadian border. Wasn't that long ago we just found out that the Canadian border is definitely going to stay closed through the spring hunting seasons. I don't know about you, Tony, but that has impacted us deeply. We have a lot of clients that want to cross the border and go hunting this past year, and it's not going to happen now. Some of these guys got rolled from 2020 season to 2021, or all of them did.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. And now all of a sudden they're being told, hey, you're going to be rolled yet again. And I want to throw a big kudos out there to all of our clients because, there's a lot of people out there that could be real a-holes if it got down to it. It's like, hey, 2 years, they're rolling my deposit. I mean, these are people that understand that there's people's livelihoods and businesses on the line up in Canada. These are people that want nothing more than to take them hunting and show our clients, the time of their life and earn that living. And this is impacting them more than it's impacting us, to say the least. And, I just want to throw a big shout out there to all of our clients that, for being so awesome. Because
I've talked to several over the last couple of weeks, and, you sent out our podcast that we had Scott Ellis on and really kind of shed some light on the importance of understanding how it's impacting not only us as hunters that have deposits on hunts, but just as importantly, if not more importantly, just how it impacts these outfitters. And everyone's been super cool and understanding, and there's just nothing we can do about it. We just have to roll with the punches and cross that bridge when it comes.
Well, get me Trudeau's phone number. I'll set him straight. I mean, seriously, you get me Justin Trudeau's phone number. I'll have that conversation. I'll have that hard conversation with him that nobody else wants to have, I guess. But, Tony, what are you hearing out there? I mean, you know anybody that's been trying to get into Canada?
It's kind of the same scenario. Everybody that I talk to, of course, the folks that I associate with are kind of like what we do in our lifestyle, being a traveling hunter. They all have been waiting to get to Canada. And probably one of my most favorite things to do is hunt black bear. And of course, going into this time of year, there's a lot of guys that are jonesing to get north and they just can't do it. And the greatest thing about the industry that we associate in the outdoor, the hunting industry is most of us are pretty solid individuals and understand that, at the end of the day, it's just something that is uncontrollable. And what is the use of getting mad and upset about? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just going to do nobody no good.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, yeah, you brought it up. It's our community that I'd like to think sets the standard for how we should behave as a society when, things like this happen. It's just, like I said, we over the course of the last year, and it's really been about 12 months that this pandemic has been beating us. It feels like 7 years, but really for the last 12 months, we've had the conversations weekly with a lot of our clients, and I mean, I can count the number of a-holes on just a few fingers.
Yeah, it's not many at all.
No, it's really
I was expecting
been good.
more the second time around, to people kind of getting, I'm not okay with this, but it's been very smooth.
Well, and I think a lot of people were looking for that. And then the other thing, we did a podcast recently with Steve Raymond, the founder of Farwide, and I talked about how, he's using that app or made that app to help people get in the outdoors. I'm seeing more and more. I mean, we talk about all the time, 7 or 8 million new gun owners in America last year? Well, wasn't that the number, Tony?
Man, bro, it's hard to keep up with because it is growing exponentially every 15 seconds, it seems like.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about 7 or 8 million gun owners, the 700,000 or 800,000 rounds of ammunition. I mean, there's a lot going on in our industry. But what's happening is I think we're seeing this movement of people getting outdoors, more people getting in the woods, whether that's for hunting or fishing or just mountain biking or hiking or whatever it might be, this movement to get outdoors into the wild and wide open spaces, and we're seeing this, as part of this Farwide platform. I mean, you're out in Tennessee, Tony. Do you see more and more people getting outdoors and doing things like we are out in the western states?
Well, I can tell you this. So we're obviously at springtime here. We're just right around the corner from opening of turkey season here. Last year, we had 6 weeks of turkey hunting here in the state of Tennessee. By week number 2, we pretty much had filled the quota for the entire 6 weeks in 2 weeks because there were so many people doing outdoor things that had not been doing it before.
Turkey, you guys have a quota on turkeys?
Well, so each year they set I won't say a quota, but they set a number or a projection of what they predict will be harvested every year. And that prediction was fulfilled in 2 weeks, where it typically takes 6 weeks for hunters to fill that.
Well, so it's not a quota where they closed the season. It was actually just a predicted harvest.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, but that'd be tough to have turkey season closed after 2 weeks. That'd be like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'd kill me.
I was gonna say, now were you able to find some 410 shells? I know I was talking to Nick in the office the other day, and he had all the 410 stuff out, and he was working on the next Pendleton Ammunition Mad Scientist project again, and he had a little bit of a break between runs of 300 Win Mag, 7mm Rem Mag, and 6.5 Creedmoor, and and he's working on trying to get that 410 TSS load done. I mean, were you able to get your hands on some 410 shells so you can get that CVA out there?
Well, so what the great news about that is that I had a few left over from last year because I was very particular about what turkeys I shot last year and how many it was, because I knew that ammunition was going to be a problem. So I have a few left over from last year. So surely in the state of Tennessee, I'll be able to limit out with the 410.
Nice. That TSS movement's been wild, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. It has made a market for our CVA Scout 410, to be honest with you. Because, 5 years ago, we'll take it back for 10 years ago, everybody was hunting with 10 gauge shotguns because they couldn't find 8 gauge shells. So it was shoot them with the biggest darn thing you can get your hands on. And now we have went, because of the TSS movement, we have went the other direction as hard as we can go. We're now shooting them with almost the smallest thing that we can shoot them with. And we're not shooting them at 3 feet and 5 yards and 10 yards. But this TSS stuff that is scattered across the country now, we're able to shoot 410s and still be very effective and ethical at 40 plus yards now. So yes, the TSS has been a game changer.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll have something to send you for a little field test.
Yes, sir.
So Tony, you and I have had a chance to spend a little time in the field, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit, but I kind of want to zoom out a little bit and just, I've had a chance to kind of hear this before, but for our listeners and viewers, of just kind of share with us kind of why and how you got into hunting. I always find it fascinating to hear our guests talk about how they got into hunting just personally back when they were younger or whatever it may be.
Well, I would say that probably everybody listening here today, if you're an outdoorsman, you probably grew up in the outdoors, and that's your dad taking you out, whether it's small game hunting, squirrel hunting, or obviously depends on which portion of the country that you live in that you're listening from right now. But I grew up here. Of course, I'm sure you can tell by my southern slang. I am from the South.
Drawl.
Yeah, little drawl there. So I was born and raised in Middle Tennessee, and I grew up as an outdoorsman with my dad. And my dad was a big coon hunter. He was a houndsman. He loved Walker coon hounds, and that's what I grew up doing. But when I got up in my teenage years, I had somebody introduce me into archery, which oddly enough, I was introduced into archery, but that's not my preference today. But he introduced me to archery, and thankful he did, because that was probably, I guess maybe I was 15 years old or so at that time. And of course, when a young man is 15 years old, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in his mind and his body that's changing his focus on life. And my focus was changing from going coon hunting with my dad to chasing young teenage girls around the countryside, and occasionally taking part in some adult beverages that I probably should have not been doing. And downside of that is those adult beverages consumed me a little bit through my early teenage years to, well, I say the most influential teenage years, 15, 16, 17. And I was doing a lot of heavy drinking, a lot of partying, and I didn't see it as a problem. Obviously, when you're in a well, you don't see it as a problem. But after about 3 or 4 years of coming home at night and getting up in the morning and seeing fence posts hanging out in front of my truck, or my mirrors tore off my truck, I realized I was probably a whole lot deeper in the well than I realized. And my buddy had introduced me into bow hunting or the sport of archery. And it became an overwhelming passion of mine to be in the timber with a bow and arrow in my hand, chasing whitetail here in Tennessee, here in the South. And once I got up to about 20 years old or so, I quickly realized that basically the outdoors saved me from going down a path of no return. It consumed me enough that the partying stopped, and the overconsumption of alcoholic beverages stopped, and my full focus was bow hunting and the outdoors. And it had struck me so hard that I wanted to tell other people that was around me how important the outdoors was, because again, I really felt that it saved me. So I started, and I'm gonna tell you this: when I was in high school, English was my worst subject. The only way to get the word out there, of course, this kind of dates me, because there was no YouTube, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook, there was no email for that matter. So I knew that if I wanted to get the word out there about how important the outdoors was for me and saved me and got me back on a solid path in life, I had to go to the only avenue I could go to, and that was print media at the time. So I started becoming working towards being an outdoor writer, and ended up writing for multiple publications across the country. Ended up owning my own outdoor magazine called Tennessee Outdoor News, which I published for 10 years, and it was my home state's largest hunting and fishing outdoor style publication. So I kind of got into the outdoor industry, if you will, just for the sheer passion of I wanted to tell everybody else what an awesome place the outdoors was. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it went into, obviously I figured out how to write, over 10 years of running an outdoor publication, but I've always been a self-employed kind of guy. So running a business was, basically kind of come natural to me, if you will. So running that publication was pretty natural. I ended up having about 40 different outdoor writers working for me at the time. And of course I had, graphic designers and photographers and all kind of had a full staff of people, and ended up selling that publication, but went into more of, I guess the next step in my life was, outdoor TV. So I started writing, instructional DVDs and hosting instructional and safety DVDs for a muzzleloading manufacturer out of Centerville, Iowa called Night Rifles. And they ended up starting a TV show that was on the Outdoor Channel for 5 seasons called Born to Hunt. So I hosted that for quite a long time, and then just stepped through several other TV shows until I got about 5 years ago, I was doing my own TV show called Traveling Hunter, which was, it was my first email account, travelinghunter@AOL.com. If that tells you how long ago that's been.
Do you still have it?
I do not have the AOL email address, but I still use Traveling Hunter
Yes, you
TV
do.
as my email.
Well, and your Instagram handle.
yeah.
Yeah, well, pretty much everything I do is, and it's just a nickname that I picked up. So when I started trying to figure out how to be an outdoor rider, the first thing that you have to have when you're an outdoor rider, you got to have a subject matter to talk about. And I was fortunate enough at a very young age there in my 20s, I had a job that I only worked 6 months a year. So I worked 6 hard months, and then for 6 months, I didn't do nothing but hunt. So I traveled in a 90 model Toyota pickup truck, and I lived and traveled in that 90 model Toyota pickup truck. And typically I would hit the Midwest trying to find whitetails to hunt on public ground through Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska. And I would hit all of these states. Most of them were with the muzzleloader, because through the Midwest, you got to hunt with a muzzleloader, not a centerfire rifle.
Yep.
So that's where the muzzleloading passion started really growing. I had no choice but to use it if I wanted to go gather content for my articles to be able to promote and tell everybody what a cool place the outdoors was.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's awesome.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah. Well, and everybody's got a path, right? I mean, you found your path. That's the most important thing.
I found my path, so I realized there when I was mid-20s that all that mess that I went through in my teenage years of running through people's fence posts or fences and having to get up the next morning and go fix Farmer John's fence that I run through the night before, I realized that all of that happened for a reason, and that was to guide me to the path that I was put on this earth to do, and that is promote the outdoors that you and I know so well.
Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
It's crazy how the outdoors and hunting can really, change someone's life for the positive. A lot of, anti-hunters or, non-hunters don't realize, like, this is such a positive thing, can really change someone's life in a positive manner.
Without a doubt.
Oh man. Yeah, without question. And I hate to say this because of the world that we live in now with COVID or Rona, or however you want to say it. I almost feel like it's a bit of a virus, if you will. Like if you get the flu, you pass it on to somebody else, and then of course it just gets bigger, just like the world that we've lived in for the last year with COVID. But if you infect somebody with the outdoor passion, you never know who they're going to pass it to, and who they're going to pass it to, and who they're going to pass it to, which at the end of the day, it just makes our world that much better.
Oh, amen. So after the Travel and Hunter television series is over with, what do you do now?
So I stopped filming Traveling Hunter. I filmed it for 4 seasons. Was on the Sportsman Channel. But as we all get older, everybody around us gets older as well. And unfortunately, my dad was getting he was getting some age on him there when I was filming Traveling Hunter, and I was gone for 6-7 months at a time filming the show. And my dad ended up getting sick with a terrible disease called dementia, which unfortunately took 24-hour care. So I decided to stop all my endeavors of chasing the dream of filming outdoor TV to stay home and take care of my dad while he was still here on this earth with us. So once he passed away, I kind of was in a bit of I won't say a lull, but yeah, I was kind of in a lull. I didn't know what I was going to do because my biggest fan now went upstairs to see the man upstairs, and so I was kind of lost. And I've been working with CVA since 2009. I've been working with them as a national pro staff guy, if you will. I would go to big box stores and do seminars on hunting with black powder guns, and also doing some video work for them and instructional video stuff for those guys and their muzzleloaders. And they, of course, also sponsored my show, Traveling Hunter. And after I buried my dad, things kind of settled down a little bit. The CEO of the company came to me and said, "Hey, what is your plan now? What are you going to do now?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. Kind of lost, obviously, as anybody would be when they lose a parent. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do." He said, "I'm going to pay you not to do TV." And of course, the first thing goes through my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh my God, was I that bad?"
Yeah. I want to pay you not to do something.
Yeah, I want to pay you not to do that again, was his exact words. And I'm thinking, of course, I get a complex immediately. But really what he was getting at was, he said, "Hey, you have done in your lifespan, you have done everything in the outdoor media world. You've been an outdoor writer, a magazine owner, publisher. You have obviously hosted several outdoor TV shows for the last 10 or 15 years. He said, we really want you to be the head of our influencer relations, which is a pretty fancy term. And in my world, I just call it a redneck politician. But my job for the CVA brand is to basically work with all the people that I have been, outdoor writers, bloggers, podcasters, social media influencers, TV show hosts, anybody in outdoor media that wants something from the CVA brand, the Bagar brand, basically come through me before they actually reach out to the company. So I handle them and take care of all the influencers across the country, basically now for the CVA brand and the Bagar brand.
Well, that's why we work together all the time. Hey, folks, we got to take a quick commercial break here and hear from one of our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to tell some hunting stories. We're going to get to know Tony Smotherman a little bit better. And there's some stories there that I'm sure you're going to want to hear. We'll be right back.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Marathon Seat Covers. We've got you covered.
All right, folks, we're back here at Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast. I'm joined at the table by Travis Price from our office at Steve's Outdoor Adventures, and on the phone is the traveling hunter, Tony Smotherman. We've been talking about the things that, the path that we take to get into the outdoor industry, the twists and turns in life, and kind of what we're doing now. And Tony, like you said, you're the head of influencer relations, but I also know that you get your time in the field. That's a big part of, working in the outdoor industry is finding the time to get into the field and do the things that we love the most. Let me ask this. What is the next big hunting trip that you've got scheduled? Like, what are you going to do next? Like, what are you looking forward to right now?
Well, I'm not real smart fella. I only got 10 fingers and 10 toes, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to do coming up, and I can't count all on my fingers and toes. But I'll tell you, I guess one of the really big things, and obviously your adventure, your whole life is adventure hunt. The end all cure all for me, the end goal for me would one day be able to do a sheep hunt. Like everybody else in this great land, I've been applying for sheep all over the country, and I will probably be 147 years old before I draw a tag. But nonetheless, that is the end goal that I want to do. But in the meantime, I'm going to spend as much time in the great state of Wyoming as I possibly can hunting mule deer.
Yeah. Mule deer, elk. I know you love hunting out west. How many years have you been applying in Wyoming for sheep?
Oh my goodness, man.
Are you at 20, 19, 18?
I'm gonna say I'm strong running 13. So
13?
Again.
Okay.
I got a minute before I can draw that tag.
I'm about a decade ahead of you, but just so you know, like, hold on one second, because there's something I can do that puts odds in your favor to possibly draw in the general pool. Hold on one second. Hey, guys, go get the witch doctor, 2 chickens.
Yeah.
We're going to sacrifice a chicken. And if
sage.
Hold on a second. Yeah, no sage. Hold on a second. If you find any virgins out there, bring one up here, because we got to pull out all the stops for Tony.
Yeah.
Seriously, we're going to get you a Wyoming sheep tag come hell or high water.
So Tony, when you have the opportunity to draw that sheep tag, would you use muzzleloader or would you use something else?
Man, that is a mighty fine question. My passion is hunting with a muzzleloader. So I would probably say that hands down, it would have to be a muzzleloader.
What? Wait, I tuned a mountain rifle for you. I figured you would be like all in on that. Yeah, that mountain rifle for your Win Mag.
I want to get the most out of this trip as I possibly can, and getting closer with the muzzleloader just takes it that next step, man.
So I obviously talk to a lot of hunters every day, right? And I've got a lot of respect for guys like yourself, Tony, who are dedicated, limited range weapon, hunters that no matter what, they're going to go to that, whatever it may be, archer or muzzleloader. I have a lot of respect for that. And I have a lot of respect for you for that too.
Well, I tell you, it was kind of I got into muzzleloading just because I really had no choice. If I wanted to hunt the Midwestern states that had a really good whitetail. So it was by default that I am so passionate about hunting with the muzzleloader. But I think what really made me continue the path of hunting with black powder was the mechanical side of it. So I'm a mechanical mind. I like hot rods and, anything custom. I'm a custom hot guy, anything custom, because I like to see the building process of putting something together. Now, and I'm not a reloader. I know, Steve, that you have an amazing reloading operation. And that's the reason I get my ammunition from Pendleton, because I am not a reloader. But on the muzzleloading side of things, you do get to see all the components going together. So in my mind, I understand mechanically what makes that gun tick, or boom, if you will. Mm-hmm. Primer, powder, projectile, and you get to tinker with those different powder loads and different projectile weights and so on and so forth. So I think that's what really took me to the next level and made me just stay focused on hunting with the muzzleloader. But I also like to, limited weapon. Well, when I first started, it was limited weapon stuff. Because
now that's kind of changed.
Yeah, that was the one. If we could hit a pie plate at 75 yards, we were doing something. And now, if I can hit a pie plate at 1,000 yards, I don't feel right.
Yeah. But you said it earlier, just getting close, to the animals and really testing your abilities and the challenge of it. It's just really cool stuff.
You bet it is. And I like to see the smoke, to be honest with you. I mean,
you can't see the animal after you pull the trigger, but that's a happy feeling, and I the mountain goat hunt that I did in Alaska, when I got real close to the goats going through the fog and whatnot. And there was one other factor to muzzleloader hunting, and that is if you pop something at 30 yards with a muzzleloader and you're shooting, let's say, like a 405 grain power belt copper bullet, when it impacts the animal, you hear the thump. I mean,
oh my God, big time.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I do miss muzzleloader hunting to a certain degree. I mean, I'm paid to rifle hunt now. Dudley made that real clear to me originally, and like, hey, we're going to move you from muzzleloaders to rifles, because that was our, a bigger part of our customer base, of course. But I do miss, some of that. Obviously I was close to the grizzly. I was close to the woodland caribou. I could have kicked him. Mm-hmm. Getting close. So I feel what you're saying, Tony. I really do, and I respect that as well. But I am going to bring up one thing. That is, when you draw a sheep tag, it is not weapon specific. And if you're standing across a draw on the last day of the season, 300 yards away from a full curl ram on your once-in-a-lifetime tag, are you going to...
Don't do it, Tony. Don't do it.
You're going to reach for that mountain rifle.
Stay traditional.
I'm doing it.
Stay traditional.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I play the mind game with everybody, but honestly, stay true to your course and go get him with the smoke stick and make us all proud, because I know I'd be rooting for you when you get that tag. So that's your bucket, like that's your dream hunt. That's your number one bucket list dream hunt, right?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Cool. Yeah, it's the pinnacle achievement. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's something to talk about. Now, so let's talk about this. You go on that sheep hunt. What muzzleloader are you going to have in your hands?
Well, it depends.
It's going to be a CVA. Yeah, it's going
to be a CVA, but depending on which model is when I draw this tag. If it's like 2045, we're going to be in some new models.
So hypothetically, once again, I called out for 2 chickens and some sacrificial stuff here. There's a high likelihood you're going to draw that. Don't forget the virgin. There's a high likelihood that you're going to draw this tag after the witch doctor gets done doing his magic here tonight. And so
we'll run with hypotheticals then.
Hypothetically, you draw the tag this year.
Got it. So I can see that. I mean, I can almost taste it. It's kind of weird. I can taste paper right now, but I can taste this tag. It's so close. So I tell you, if I'm going to do it right now, if it's going to happen this fall, it would be with a brand new muzzleloader that we just come out with at CVA. It's called the HTR. It is probably, I'm not bragging by any stretch, but I probably have probably the largest collection of muzzleloaders of anybody in this country, unless they're just like really, really weird. This new Paramount HTR muzzleloader that we just come out with is probably the most insane piece of work I've ever seen. Everything that we do. Well, this podcast, you guys are listening to this podcast right now, whether you're driving down the road or at your home office or whatever's going on, wherever you listen to it at, on your iPhone, iPad, whatever. we're using technology, and for the last 20 years, technology really hasn't stepped into the muzzleloading game until about 2 years ago when we introduced a new muzzleloader called a Paramount, which is a 45 caliber. It was a 280 grain 45 caliber bullet, running about 2,400 feet per second, which was a Ferrari of a muzzleloader compared to the 1,800 feet per second I've been running for 20 years.
Yeah.
But to take that to the next level, we just introduced one. It's been all over social media. It's a 40 caliber HTR, which basically stands for Hunter. It is running about 2,750 feet per second.
With what grain bullet?
225 grain bullet.
Impressive.
Yeah,
bro.
I remember when we did that antelope hunt out in New Mexico. What was that? It was a plains rifle, wasn't it? That you sent to me, and I put the eliminator on it.
Yes, it was.
I remember getting to camp. You were like, "So what are you getting for velocity out of this one?" I said, "Oh, I was like, hey man, I made it to 2,100 feet per second." You were like, "Woo, you're smoking fast,"
Oh, well, for real. I mean, the bar has always been set about 1,800, 1,850 feet per second out of a muzzleloader, 1850. And when we stepped into that new Paramount muzzleloader 2 years ago, 45 caliber, and we broke that 24, I remember chronographing it for the first time and seeing 2406. I like to pass out, bro. I mean, it was so next level of anything I'd ever seen before, and I am pretty dug into the well of the black powder world, and it's like nothing I ever seen. It was a dream to see that with such a big bullet.
So, Tony, what does that translate into in the hunting world for when you have maybe a little bit lighter of a projectile going faster? Are you getting, better accuracy? Are you being able to reach out, further because it's flat? Or are you getting better impact, on the animal? What are you seeing there?
Well, so the coolest thing about all of it, so obviously through Pendleton Ammunition and all the reloaders and long-range shooters that are listening to this podcast right now, one common terminology that you hear in a centerfire world or in a rifle world is ballistic coefficient, or BC, of a projectile, which in layman's terms, it basically means how that bullet cuts through the air.
Aerodynamic capabilities. Yeah.
There you go. So never has that terminology been talked about in the muzzleloading world, because the bullets that we shoot are like shooting big pieces of cardboard or plywood. They've not been aerodynamic. They obviously very slow. So we never measured a BC of a bullet in a muzzleloading projectile, if you will, until the Paramount 45 caliber come out, and we started talking BC, because it was a bullet that we worked on at CVA for 3 years, getting it down to where we wanted it to be, and at a .333 in a muzzleloading 280 grain bullet was just something phenomenal. But one thing you got to remember in the muzzleloading world, we have one shot. We shoot a really big bullet, a really big piece of lead or copper, depending on which manufacturer's bullets you shoot. And our muzzle velocities always have been pretty slow, and compared to a 6.5 PRC. So we hit you with one bullet, but we hit you slow and we hit you hard, almost like a dump truck. You see a dump truck going down the road, he's running 50 miles an hour, not 80. But if he hits you, there's a lot of kinetic energy behind that dump truck. Same as these muzzleloading bullets. We're slow and we're lobbing them in like a big giant dump truck. But if we hit you, you know it, or the animal knows it. A lot of kinetic energy. So kind of the biggest difference between the centerfire stuff and the muzzleloading projectiles is the 6.5 PRCs of the world. They're a lighter bullet, 143 grain, but they're going so fast that they just vaporize the critter when they hit him, basically. These muzzleloading bullets do not do that, but they have a whopping amount of kinetic energy. And just to give you kind of perspective, for whitetail size animals, typically the rule of thumb has always been about 900 foot-pounds of kinetic energy to ethically harvest a whitetail. So 160, 170 pound animal, 900 pounds of kinetic energy. the 45 caliber bullet we're talking about here out of the Paramount that we introduced a couple of years ago, at 400 yards has 1,700 foot-pounds of kinetic energy.
Wow.
At 400 yards.
Like
That's
double.
a dump truck at 80, dude.
That's a dump truck at 80 with 22 ton of gravel in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, with a bunch. Yeah. Damn.
Yep. So that's kind of how our world works. And we've always worked on kinetic energy, one shot with a lot of kinetic energy. But now with technology, we're talking kinetic energy, muzzle velocity that we've never seen before. Like I said, 2,700 plus feet per second with a 225 grain bullet. And a ton of kinetic energy too, because of a high VC, a lot of muzzle velocity. So it's a really interesting time to be in the muzzleloading game because, to kind of reflect back here just a little bit. So when I first started going to Wyoming, probably 20 years ago, I would still go to Wyoming, even though there's no muzzleloading season. I would still go hunt antelope, prairie dogs, mule deer, elk, everything with a muzzleloader. And all my buddies, when I would get there, they'd be like, "What in the heck are you going to do with that toy?" I'm like, "Boys, I'm here to hunt." And they're like, "No, that piece of junk you're not. Hey, we can't get that close enough. You know you're in Wyoming, right? It's big open country. You'd be able to shoot 400 yards.
And the wind blows.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, and then you got to always, hard left to right push most of the time. So it's always comical when I show up there with a muzzleloader. But now it's not so funny anymore to them because I'm out there running some of these guns to 600 and 700 yards. So technology in iPhones and iPads and Tesla cars that you see going on the road, all that's great, but it is awesome to see it finally make itself into the muzzleloading world.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's something to hear you talking about how far we've come from the days of the night disc gun back in the day to now this Paramount gun from CVA. The advancements in technology in the muzzleloader hunting world are just growing in leaps and bounds, and CVA is at the tip of that spear. When we come back from this quick commercial break, we're going to hear some more from Tony. We're going to talk about rifles. We're going to get even a little bit more.
Switch gears.
Yeah, we're going to switch gears up a little bit and do a little bit more talking about, caliber selection and some of the guns that we should be looking for as they come out on the market here in the near future. We'll be right back from this short commercial break.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Bergara Rifles, where the people truly make the difference.
All right, folks, we're back from that short commercial break. I'm sitting here at the table we call Clark with my good friend Travis Price from our office at Steve's Outdoor Adventures sitting across from me, and on the phone is Tony Smotherman, the traveling hunter, and we've been talking about CVA muzzleloaders and the life of living in the hunting industry. And like you said, you're the head of influencer relations for BPI, basically, which is Bergara, Power Belt, CVA, and you and I spend a lot of time working with regard to the Bergara brand and those rifles and whatnot. I'll tell you what, the Bergara rifles have taken a big place in the market today. Talk to me about how things are going there at Bergara.
Well, like you say, man, we are taking a big foothold in the firearm side of the industry now. Probably 400% growth over the last couple of years. Our brand is a very dedicated brand to the best material that we can put in hunters and shooters' hands across the country at a price that does not break the bank. A pretty affordable gun for what you get. Our background, we started out as just a barrel manufacturer. I know that with what I get to do for the BPI brand, the Bergara brand, and that we're speaking about now, is I get to travel across the country, meet a lot of great people, and see a lot of great states. And it amazes me that we're such a big, growing, forward-moving brand. There's still a lot of places across this great land that don't know who or what Bergara is. So it just tells you how much more room we have to grow. But our whole background, if you're listening right now and are not familiar with the Bergara brand, is we started out as a barrel manufacturer and saw, an open hole in the market back in 2014 to become our own rifle manufacturer.
Oh, it goes earlier than that. I shot the first custom Bergara rifles back in 2011 and 12.
Well, that was when we were building custom guns. That was when we were kind of testing the market. So basically, we were building the best barrels that money could buy.
Yeah.
And we saw at that time everybody was building custom guns. So to your point, in 2011, 2012, everybody at that time was trying to build a custom gun, a $5,000 or $6,000 custom piece, which is really awesome. But the problem that they were running into was the lead time of getting that thing back was sometimes up to 16, 18 months.
Yeah.
And with the manufacturing capabilities we have at our facility in Atlanta, Georgia, we have some of the most amazing gunsmiths in the world, most of them ex-military of some sort. So we saw a opportunity at that time that we could build custom guns for people in a much quicker lead time because of the horsepower, machine, and manpower that we have in our facility. And we already had the best barrels in the country at our hands because we were making them ourselves. We weren't waiting on somebody we wasn't a custom gun maker waiting on somebody else to supply us barrels. We were supplying our own barrels. So a custom gun that would typically take somebody 16, 18 months to get back from a smaller custom gun builder, we could build that same gun in 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and when we were doing that, we were like, oh man, it started taking off and it was starting to climb like crazy. And we're like, oh, wait a minute. There's something here.
Yeah.
So our first line of rifles were a B14 series is what we called them, and that stands for Bergara 2014. And that's when we went to SHOT Show in Las Vegas with our first crate of actual production rifles that we manufactured, and that was the B14 Hunter and Woodsman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably hunted some of those, but that was kind of where things kicked off was in 2014, and today it is an unstoppable machine. The Bergara brand is coming for every gun store in this country right now.
Yeah. I mean, I was just out in Utah last month with Dakota, the national sales manager, and he looked right at I was asking, I was kind of busting his balls a little bit, like, hey man, I'm a little light on gun inventory. When am I going to start seeing some guns? He started laughing, and I thought, hey, wait a minute, dude, I'm one of your endorsement personalities. Surely there's a way to the front of the line for me. And he laughed a little harder, and he was like, you don't understand. He's like, we could sell 200% more guns than we can even manufacture in the next year. There's that many orders and there's that much demand. And there's only so many materials and so many hands that can make these guns. And I mean, it's crazy, because we're not talking about AR-15s, right? We're not talking about pistols. We're not talking about guns that the self-defense, the 2A community is scared they're going to, lose their gun rights. So let's hurry up and get an AR and a pistol that we can hide somewhere, when the government comes to take it. This isn't that craze. This is just demand from people who are hunters and shooters who want a quality rifle at an affordable price. And I'll tell you what, that really speaks to it. And the people who are Bergara people are very diehard and loyal to the brand, without a doubt. Without question. And I think a lot of that is, number one, yes, we do put out an amazing product for a great price, but behind the scenes, there's always something behind the scenes. They always say behind every good man is a good woman. Well, behind the Bergara brand is some of the best people this country has to offer. Again, a lot of them are ex-military that have served their country, served our country, and now build amazing rifles. But our support team, our marketing team, even up to the CEO. If you guys are on Facebook, and maybe some of you heard of the Bergara brand, maybe some of you have been to our Bergara Facebook pages. The biggest one out there is the Bergara enthusiast page, and I can almost guarantee you that anytime you go on there, you will see our CEO on there, Nate Treadaway, engaging with people that are Bergara owners. And it's never going to happen with any other manufacturing or gun manufacturing in the world. And to be honest with you, it just amazes me how much time he spends on social media when he's running a operation. But the point with that is we like to be engaged with the people who are running the Bergara brand and understanding anything they have to say. Number one, if it's a complaint, we want to hear it. Obviously, if it's good stuff, we want to hear that too. But we like to stay well in tune with the end user.
It's interesting to hear that, the history, or you speak of the history of the B14 model, because, when I started at Steve's Outdoor Adventures, I was fortunate to be able to have one of the hunters and hunted most of my career so far with that rifle. I wouldn't trade that rifle for anything, and it's accurate.
Yeah, I was shooting Premier Series guns, Tony, and I issued the new guy the B14 Green Machine, and and he went out and started putting meat on the ground with it. It was
this is amazing.
Yeah, they shoot, dude. I mean, that's the thing, and then last year he was able to graduate up to the Mountain 2.0. Yeah, the 300 Win Mag. Yeah, you've got one of those, isn't that?
Oh man.
Yeah,
if I go to the field with a bolt action rifle, it will be that Premier Mountain 2.0, man. That is my favorite one.
I like it too.
Which caliber?
300 Win Mag.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I was going to say, because you had a Mountain 1.0, or the original Mountain, in the 300 Win Mag, and I remember you sent it, and we put a muzzle brake on it and did a load development, and you thought that one shot pretty good, and then you got the 2.0.
You bet, man. That and that, I don't know. It's just something about it. I don't know what it is, but just talking Travis, I think I heard you just say that yours is a shooter, dude. For a 300 Win Mag, it weighs 7 pounds. That you would think would rattle your darn retinas loose when you squeeze it off.
Yep.
It is the best shooting gun I have in my arsenal of bolt action.
It just feels good in the hand. The trigger feels right. It's light. It's versatile. With the brake on it, I like that rifle too.
Fits in a scabbard.
Yep. Yeah. You can take it backcountry style.
Yeah. What and I guess talking about the different rifles and calibers. I mean, you travel out west, Tony, and obviously you like the 300 Win Mag. And what's the furthest distance that you've shot at an animal with your 300 Win Mag? And hit or miss, it doesn't matter. What do you feel like your ethical distances, and what's the furthest you've tried to stretch one out there?
713 is my longest confirmed kill on a mule deer in southeast Wyoming.
Good number. Yeah.
713, and it was with the Steve's Outdoor Adventures custom turret that we put on top of the bird.
There you go. So it was with the 300 Win Mag then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Nice. And then elk hunting. I mean, I know you like to elk hunt some. Have you taken an elk with the 300 Win Mag yet?
Man, I have not. I have been, just to be honest with you, I've been getting my butt kicked on drawing some elk tags here in the last couple of years. But hopefully we change that here going into 2021. It's a new game this year, maybe.
Let's get another bucket of chicken going up here.
That's right.
So, while I've got to take another break here in just a second, when we come back from this next short commercial break, we're going to hear from one of our sponsors. I want to talk to you about caliber selection, because there's a couple of hot calibers out there that I've got mixed feelings and emotions about. And I want to get your take on it. I mean, you talk to a lot of people and you're around guys about talking ballistics all the time. I want to talk to you about the 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, some of these calibers out there that, the discussion needs to be had, and guys like you and Travis and I, who have hunted and shot a lot, we've experienced a lot of different things, and I think we can give some people some strong advice out there. We'll be right back from the short commercial break with more information about hunting, shooting, and caliber selection.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Burris Optics. Find what matters.
All right, folks, we're back here at Lake Clark, the table in the podcast studio. I'm sitting across from Travis Price from Steve's Outdoor Adventures office, and on the phone is Tony Smotherman, the traveling hunter. We're talking rifles and calibers and Western big game hunting, just hunting in general. And, when we went to this last commercial break, I was talking about different calibers that, there's a lot of opinions out there on whether or not they're big enough and accurate enough and this and that. And, before we start talking about that, I want to reinforce one thing. Number one, it doesn't matter what caliber rifle you hunt with. If you can't put the bullet where it needs to be, it's the wrong rifle, right? Accuracy is everything. Putting a bullet in the vitals of an animal for a quick and ethical, clean shot so that they are dispatched quickly is of the most important. So regardless of how you feel about the caliber of choice or the advice given in today's show, make sure that you're shooting a rifle that you're comfortable with, capable with, and not just shooting something that is some ultra super nuclear magnum because it's bigger than the one your buddy's hunting with. So, Tony, let's talk 6.5 Creedmoor. What's the biggest animal you would hunt with a 6.5 Creedmoor inside 500 yards?
I would say it has to be a mule deer. I feel pretty certain that from mule deer down, the 6.5 Creedmoor is very ethical and efficient. I have great friends that have shot a bunch of elk in you guys' country out west with 6.5 Creedmoors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And again, like you say, you can kill them with a pencil if you hit them right. So it is about shot placement. That's one of the greatest things that I have ever seen with the, I say, revolution or the push forward of the 6.5 Creedmoor it is probably one of the most accurate rounds that I have climbed behind in a long time, and watch people of all shapes, sizes, forms, shooting backgrounds can still all shoot that 6.5 Creedmoor very well. I hate to say it's a magic pill, but it's almost like a magic pill. But I personally, if I'm hunting anything above a mule deer, it's going to be 300 Win Mag. Anything below mule deer would be a 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot by guys. So do I. Yeah, and there's a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor owners out there that want to go elk hunting. Now, can you kill an elk with 6.5 Creedmoor? Like you said, you can kill them with a pencil if you hit them right. Yes, I mean the first year that the HMR Pro and the Approach came out, Ben Fleming and I went to Chama, New Mexico, and went elk hunting, and that was what I was told. I was like, hey, you guys need to hunt with the 6.5 Creedmoor and kill some elk with it. We want to promote it. And I thought, well, I didn't know a lot about it then. Got it. I remember looking at the cartridges thinking, oh my God, this is a little light, and we killed our bulls. I mean, I dumped mine colder than frozen turkey at 400 yards, but I hit him in the one spot that I knew would freeze him, and that was where his neck and shoulder came together, and I smoked him. But I had a lot of shooting, experience to make that shot, and the average guy probably doesn't have the ability to hit something the size of a pop can at 400 yards, And so I've looked at the 6.5 Creedmoor as more of a fringe elk caliber ever since then, and that was reinforced. The very next year, I shot an elk at 300 yards. I thought I hit him square in the shoulder. I thought he'd step forward a little bit, and I thought I'd accidentally hit him in the shoulder, the front shoulder, but in reality, I'd hit him even maybe the point front of the shoulder and into the brisket, and it knocked him down. I thought, damn, there I go again with that old hot rod 6.5 Creedmoor. I smoked that bull cold. Well, let me tell you something. It was just a stunner because he got up and hauled ass, and we never did find him. And I keep thinking back, if I'd have been shooting a 300 PRC, I'd probably be staring at his antlers right now, Now, I'm not an advocate of just everybody going and buying a Magnum caliber, but I feel like the 6.5 Creedmoor is a fringe elk caliber, but an outstanding caliber for deer and antelope-sized game. Mm-hmm. And
yes, sir.
Yeah,
100%.
Maybe push it up to a caribou if you're really comfortable.
with it, caribou will die from a pellet rifle. Yeah. They're weak. I mean, sheep. Honestly, it'd be a great sheep caliber. Yeah. You're not talking with sheep and caribou. You're not talking about real big boned animals. I would not. I mean, I know a lot of guys who have killed black bears with them and really like them for, let's say, smaller Western States black bear. But like if I was coastal black bear hunting, I wouldn't use it. I'm sure as hell not taking it on a grizzly or a moose hunt. Yeah. No damn way. Yeah. So, all right. So
and I think just to kind of add one thing to that is I talk to a lot of guys and gals about this, every single day. And, for the advice I give is we all miss at times, right? Yeah. And some people more than others. And when we're talking about making a clean, ethical kill, in my opinion, especially on a larger animal, a bit heavier of bullet will be influenced less by wind, especially at distance. And I think that's something when you're trying to manage buck fever, so to speak, and maybe you haven't practiced as enough as maybe you should with a lighter caliber at a bigger animal. I think really knowing the equipment before you step into an elk or moose with a lighter bullet, you've got to know what you're doing before you jump into that arena. Because if you don't hit it perfect, you got a problem.
Well, and I'll circle back to that here in just after a couple more calibers. Tony, how do you feel about the 308?
Man, so we sell a pile of 308 But I think my personal opinion is that it is a great caliber. But the problem is there's so many new shiny toys on the market today, new shiny calibers, that it's taken the limelight away from the 308 and especially the newcomers into the sport today. The 308 was huge back 25, 30 years ago. Today it still sells a lot, but it seems to be the older generation that still prefer the 308, where the new people prefer the PRCs of the world.
I'll tell you what, we've got a 308 that's been at the ranch for years, since 2011. In fact, it's a first generation Bergara custom, on the old action and everything. I mean, and that rifle is set up with a suppressor and everything. I've still got it in the safe downstairs. All the terminally ill kids, all the first time youth hunters, ladies, men, it doesn't matter. That thing has killed mountains of elk. I mean, I don't even know the number. It's a number. Most hunters go their whole life and don't even see that many elk, right? I'm talking about for lack of a better word, a shit ton of elk have been killed with this gun, and most of them with one shot, okay? And where I'm going to go with this is you look at a 308 shoots 180 grain, or at least our 180 grain bullet from Pendleton Ammunition, about 2,600 feet per second, okay? And we're shooting Scirocco's or tip triple shocks, and then you look at the 30-06, and a lot of people think, oh, well, that thought 6 has got some whop to her, shoots the same bullet 2,750 feet per second, only 150 per second gain. And you jump up to the 300 Win Mag, and guys are like, damn, now you're shooting a hot rod. And that shoots the same bullet 2,950 feet per second. Who's going to tell me that 350 feet per second is the difference between cold cocking that bull or not?
Especially if it's placed in the same spot.
Place it in the same spot. Now, you get a little bit more forgiveness and with poor bullet placement, a little bit more speed does generate more knockdown power. But let me tell you something. You can shoot a 308 a whole lot more accurately with a lot less recoil than you can a 300 Win Mag. End of story.
All day.
I am not a huge Magnum advocate. Now, I love 300 Win Mag just like anybody else. I mean, I shot damn near everything in North America with a 300 Win Mag and 180 grain tip triple shock. Where it gets me is when I get these guys that call me and they talk to me about Ultra Mags. We had this discussion the other day. One of our clients from the rifle company called me and he's like, hey, when can you build that 338, Remington Ultra Mag ammo for me? And I was like, well, I need your gun so I can do a custom load, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, so we're having this discussion. He's like, well, I really need it back in case I go to British Columbia for that mountain goat hunt. And after I broke his heart and told him that probably wasn't going to happen this year with the border closure, he said, he goes, I'll probably be able to get my 375 Remington Ultra Mag ready for that hunt by then. I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, mountain goats are tough. And I was like, didn't you just buy a bunch of 308 ammo from us? He goes, yeah. He goes, I've got a great 308. I hunt whitetails with it. So let me tell you something, dude. I'll pack that 308 up a mountain to hunt a mountain goat before I pack one of your Ultra Mags up there. The bottom line is that this whole, once again, I need a thermonuclear weapon, rifle. Yeah, I need these Remington Ultra Mags or whatever. And don't get me wrong, I love the 300 PRC too, but if you're shooting a gun that's got so much recoil that you can't sit in it and put that shot where it needs to be, if you can't even sit down at the range and sight it in due to the quantity of recoil that you're eating without developing a flinch, you've got too much gun. And I mean, I love to tell that, look, once again, I'll use some rough language. I was at the rifle range about 6 years ago, and I came across these guys that were trying to sight in their rifles for elk season. And no joke, from tall to small, the tallest guy was shooting the lightest caliber, and it was a 300 Weatherby. And the other guy was shooting, and then the other guy was shooting a 338 rum. And sure enough, the other guy, the smallest guy, call him the run of the group. I don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against short people. But this guy had Napoleon complex. He had a 375 Remington Ultra Mag. And he couldn't hit, and he was screaming at this gun. It couldn't get it on paper. Blah. And I was watching him shoot, and he was bailing out of that gun before he ever got the trigger broke,
Anticipating recoil.
Oh, man, it was just knocking the crap out of him. And these guys were basically having a pecker stretching contest. See who could shoot the biggest gun. Oh, I got the Magnum. I can bust canyons. I can do this and I can do that. And in the end, and I remember talking to the guy after, I was like, hey, why are you shooting that gun? A, it's got a 14-inch length of pull minimum, and you're like 5'6", it doesn't fit you. You know, it's too much caliber for you. You're bailing out of it. I actually videotaped him on my phone shooting the gun, then showed him the video afterward. And he was like, he actually asked me to erase that off my phone because he's worried I'd show it to somebody. And I was like, dude, shooting and hunting isn't about being the toughest, the biggest, the baddest. It's about being the most successful. And you're not going to be very successful, you know? I mean, have you run into a whole lot of Remington Ultra Mag shooters out there, Tony?
Man, so I think everybody I have in Wyoming shoots a rum. Every one of them. I'm like, yeah, okay, you can have that because last thing I'll do is knock my retinas loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Or dislodge that, you know, right shoulder. Yeah. You know, a gun that I used to, and I still own this gun too. Years ago, a guy by the name of John Lazzaroni. You've heard of the Lazzaroni arms, right?
You betcha.
Right. So he came out with this caliber called the Warbird, and I wanted a Warbird, and he was going to sponsor my TV show. And he's like, hey, I'm going to build this gun. We talked about length of pull. He said, well, I'll put a muzzle brake on. And I'm not a huge fan of muzzle brakes. I don't like noise. I'd rather have a suppressor any day, right? He's like, well, he goes, I'm telling you right now, you can't handle the recoil of this gun. Nobody can. And let's face it, I'm a little bit bigger than the average cat. And I was like, John, I can eat recoil like a sandwich. Just send that to me. Man, that gun showed up. I put a scope on it. I went to the range with my buddies, and I sat down behind it. I was telling these guys all about this badass weapon I was going to unleash on the earth that year. And I got behind every animal on the planet was going to die when I tripped the trigger on this thing. And I sat down.
Off of that sucker.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. No muzzle brake on this thing. It was like, I think they called it the Global Hunter 2000 or something at the time. I sat down behind it and I pulled the trigger one time and I put my face down on the table and I just shoot off bags. I'm not a big fan of the lead sled. And I put my face down on the table and I remember thinking, mommy, that hurt. And I took the gun, I put it back in the case, and I shipped it to John with an apology letter that begged him to put a muzzle brake on that gun. Yeah. But what a badass gun. I mean, it was an incredible rifle once it was tamed down and I could handle it. But before that, it was a pissed off Brahma bull and I couldn't ride it. Let me tell you, it was not going to happen.
And, you know, everything communicates, like even talking to a lot of guides in the industry and being around them, you know, for a little bit now, when a hunter shows up in camp, you kind of know what you're getting as soon as they pull out whatever rifle they have, right?
Every damn time.
Yeah. The brand new rums versus like the old 308s, everything communicates.
Oh yeah. I mean, and honestly, we've all been in that camp where the guy shows up and he's talking about how you can hit a gnat's ass to 1,000 yards and the gun weighs 14 pounds. And he's got a 5.5 to 30 scope with a 3-inch tall turret. And hell, he can't even pack the damn gun 4 miles, much less shoot at 400 yards, you know. And those are the guys that instantly get picked on. So any of you out there listening to this podcast, if you go to a counting camp, be humble. Because if you're the guy that opens your big mouth and then you miss.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Especially if you miss a chip shot, get ready for someone to throw a saddle on you because the boys are going to ride you for the rest of that hunting trip. Yeah. It's going to be unmerciful. And I know a few guys out there, Darren, that that don't take that kind of criticism so hot. But anyway, well, hey, tell you what, we got to hear from one more of our sponsors. And when we come right back, I got one last series of questions and a very serious topic to talk to Tony about because we are in the gun industry. There's a lot of things going on out there in the world today that we need to address. But like I said, we'll be right back from this short commercial break and we're going to wrap up this podcast in classic fashion.
This segment of the Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Pendleton Ammunition. Hand-loaded, one round at a time.
All right, folks, we're back here at Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast, sitting at Clark. My good friend Travis Price sitting across the table from me. He works at our office at Steve's Outdoor Adventures as a full-time hunting and fishing consultant. If you ever need to talk to somebody about potentially booking a trip, give Travis a call. He and I are always available to take your calls, answer your questions, and help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime. And on the phone, we have the traveling hunter, Tony Smotherman. He's the head of influencer relations and a world-traveled hunter. Good friend of mine and a hell of a guy in the industry. And, you know, we've been talking about guns, whether they be muzzleloaders or rifles and caliber selections and a lot of different things. And Tony's dream sheep hunt that we're going to work with the witch doctors on to see if we can't get a little bit of luck and love coming his way. But hey, for the last 7 to 10 days, we've had some events here in the United States that have, well, let's just say they've drummed up the old noise. You know, we haven't heard this kind of anti-gun, gun control rhetoric coming out of Congress since maybe the Jason Aldean concert in Vegas. You know, Tony, you know, you're in the industry. What are you guys hearing right now for like the gun control word? You know, what's going on out there?
You know, it is a very, very tough and difficult time for us, just gun owners in general, not us at Bagara, but just gun owners in general. We are definitely facing a wave of proposed restrictions and bans and complications coming our way. And like you said, it's been very quiet until the new regime took over here just back earlier here in the year. And now that all of a sudden they're talking gun control and bans and shootings are start picking up in Georgia and like the most recent one there in Colorado. It is a very scary time, especially when it seems like they play by their own rules. And we are, I guess, trying to brace for what's coming, but we just don't know what's coming.
Well, I think it's really important that we, as a gun owning community, take responsibility and ownership of the situation. You know, you and I are responsible gun owners. We own gun safes. We, you know, take care of our weapons. We don't let them fall into the wrong hands. If we see something going on that shouldn't be going on, we put an end to it, or we get law enforcement involved. And I think that as gun owners, you know, first and foremost, we need to start policing our own. I think that if you're a gun dealer and you have some whack job that comes in, tries to buy a gun, don't sell him one. If you have any question, I'm an FFL holder. I sell rifles. If someone comes in to buy a gun from me at the shop and they're not right, you know, I have the right to refuse service to anyone. And I believe that it is my moral responsibility to not only tell them, no, they can't have a gun, but I'm probably going to tell them why. And, you know, and I'll probably pass word around town to some of the other gun shops that, hey, this cat isn't right. You know, I didn't sell him a gun, and hopefully nobody else will. But, you know, I'm not going to make those decisions for somebody else. But that'd be one of the first messages I'd like to put out there to all the FFL gun dealers. Yeah, you can't pick the nuts out of every, you know, tree, you know. But, you know, if you see somebody who isn't quite right, just know that $100 you're making on that gun sale isn't worth 7, 8, 10, 20, or even 50 lives if that gun falls in the wrong person's hands. And
also control what you can control, like your own gun safe, making sure it's always put away, locked, ammo separate. Just as gun owners, we have to manage our own situations. Yeah,
without a doubt, you know. But then the other thing is, you know, make our voice heard. You know, one of the things about call it the anti-gun community, or the gun control lobby, is that they're very loud.
Oh my gosh, understatement. And as you're saying, and we're talking about this, that is the first thing that comes to my mind. Because like most of the great Americans across this country that do believe in our Second Amendment rights, we'll say blue collar working Americans. They're working every day. They're working 50, 60 hours a week to make enough money to take care of their family and supply hopeful a great future for them. We don't have time. I feel like that a lot of us don't have time to be so loud and boisterous as what you're just talking about. The other side, I think they're the ones that are taking sometimes take the handouts that the government provides, and they are extremely loud.
Well, we can get louder, you know, and that's, and it's not a matter of us getting louder in the media, because we're never going to win that war. Where we get loud is in the ballot, right? Get to the polling places, make sure that you've cast your ballots when the votes come up, make our voice heard when you talk to your congressman or woman, your senators, the people who pass the laws. Make your voice heard and let them know that if they're not representing you, they're not getting your vote. End of story. That's what scares politicians more than anything, is not getting reelected. Yeah. Make sure your votes are heard, you know, as loud as your voice can be. I think that's really important. The other thing that we need to do is we need to be fact driving. Like I saw something that came out the other day that was, actually it was yesterday that talked about Colorado. Colorado has gun laws. I mean, some of them are fairly restrictive, like, maximum magazine capacities, red flag laws. They've got all of these, the way I say it, they're gun ownership laws. And not one of those laws prevented that shooting. Not one of them.
That's right.
They've already got,
correct.
they've already got what they would consider to be a universal background check.
Well, I'm a firm believer in that the guns aren't, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And we need to focus on what the root cause is in certain cases in people or groups of people or whatever it may be, because the reality is even if the guns are gone, they're still going to find something, to off people with. And it's not the guns, it's the root cause. And that's what needs to be focused on.
It's a mental health situation is what it is.
Yeah.
And, I go to that all the time. I have an aunt, love her to death. She's way left of center, God help her. And, she's telling me that, all of these people are dying from gun violence. And I go look, and this super high percentage of these gun deaths, this gun violence death is truly suicide. And that's mental health to me. Mm-hmm. And you look at some of these mass shootings, if not all, personally, I feel like every mass shooter that we've ever had has a mental health problem because sane people don't do that. It's mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
Sane people.
And the guns don't pick themselves up and start shooting people.
No. We have a mental health crisis in our country today. I saw it at a restaurant the other day. Mentally, I came to the office. I told Travis about this. I was down at a local restaurant, and there was a mentally handicapped individual down there that lives in another town an hour from here. And he caught a ride over here somehow, and now he's homeless on the streets over here because he doesn't know any better. He's sitting in a restaurant with no food, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to get home. That's just one example of this mental health crisis that we have going on in our country today. And when you have people that aren't right in the head illegally obtaining firearms, or let's say they were sane and everything was fine, but something changed, the chemistry in their body changed, and 15 years later they're not right in the head, and then they take that gun and they use it in a crime. That doesn't represent the other 99.99999% of the gun owners in our country, but it's loud and it's a big flash. Loud. Yeah, it's a big flash and it gets people's attention. And these people that don't care about hunting and they don't care about our outdoor traditions, and it's a slippery slope. Don't let them BS you that we're not coming after your bolt action guns. We're not doing that. We're just after those AR-15s. Never mind the fact that AR-15s only contribute to 1% of gun violence. You know what I mean? We're only after that AR-15. We just want your assault weapons, your weapons of war. It's a slippery slope. You start down that slope, next thing you know, they're picking up your single shot H&R, 410.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Give me an inch, I'll take a mile, man.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. There's part of me that wonders if we can't have a better, more inclusive background check system. But given today's technology, it should take about 15 seconds. Really, create databases, make sure they're correct, and give us a background check in 15 seconds and let us walk out the door with that rifle or suppressor or whatever it is that we want to own as a law-abiding American citizen. I see that as something that could be accomplished, but hasn't been, and it should have been done a long time ago.
Agreed, especially the suppressor.
Oh, yeah. I want them suppressors over the counter. I'll tell you what. Hey, by the way, did you ever get a chance to go down and look at the suppressor, the Adventure Hunter suppressor?
Oh, absolutely. They had to run me out of the store. So, man, you got to leave. This is getting weird.
Why are you stroking that suppressor, Tony?
So
I'm taking selfies with the darn thing. It was like my first one or something here.
You know what we ought to do? Since I now have the Adventure Hunter suppressor, I think we should come up with the Traveling Hunter suppressor.
That's a good one.
Oh, my God.
All right, I'm going to work on that. I'm telling
you, man, I am so stoked for when that sucker gets out of jail, dude. Seriously.
Let me tell you, folks, if you have not hunted or shot with a suppressor, you should definitely at least experience it. Try to go to the range with somebody who has one, because once you start hunting and shooting with suppressors, you are never going to want to go back to hunting without one. It really is life-changing. At least it was for me. So,
yeah. Yep.
And that new Adventure Hunter suppressor that we came out with, that we helped design and worked with Granite Precision Machining to bring to market, has just been going gangbusters. I'm really looking forward to using that for, like I said, for many years to come. So, well, Tony, it's been a pleasure having you on the show here tonight. I know we've been on here for a while, and I could BS with you for hours, and we're going to have to share a hunting camp again real damn soon.
You roger that. I second that. And Travis, get to work on that Bighorn sheep tag too.
Yeah, I know. It's in my sights as well.
Yeah.
I hear you.
If you guys both draw sheep tags this year, the witch doctor's getting a pay raise. That's all. I mean,
I'll be cutting donuts in the parking lot if I draw a sheep tag. I'm just going to tell you right now.
I want picture. I want video of that. So I'll put it to you this way, Tony. If you draw a sheep tag this year, I will commit to booking the hunt for you, and I'll take you myself.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You ready to get your hiking shoes on, son?
Let me tell you, the Loas are broke in, bud. I got good sheep boots, and they're broke in, and they're ready to go. And honestly, my fat ass is yearning for some hills right now because I got cabin fever bad, and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
I bet you do, man.
But I mean, honestly, right here on the show live, we've got video proof, audio proof. You draw that sheep tag and a witness. And God forbid you both draw sheep tags. I'll never get to go hunting for myself this year. But there it is. You got your proof. I'll make it happen. You draw it, and I'll make it happen.
Well, I got everything on my body right now crossed for good luck.
Nice.
Well, hey man, you have a great night. I look forward to chatting with you again in the near future. And folks, looking for Adventure Hunter suppressors on the market, but go to Instagram, follow the Travel Hunter, Tony Smotherman's page. Check him out. He's always got some really compelling photos and videos and information on there. And, remember, follow our sponsors. With companies like Bergara, Burris Optics, Marathon Seat Covers, our own brand of Pendleton Ammunition, and, of course, the Far Wide app, they need to be supported because they make this podcast and our television series possible. So, definitely check them out and patronize their businesses. So, well, folks, that's all the time we have for today's podcast, but please look forward to the next episode to be coming soon right here at Steve's Outdoor Adventure Studios.
The Steve's Outdoor Adventures podcast is sponsored by Farwide, the game-changing free app that puts outdoor intelligence in the palm of your hand.